Hello and welcome to the Quantum Fit Podcast. I'm Taylor and I am your host. This podcast is about applying the different principles of quantum physics and quantum biology to your health and fitness. This gives us a holistic view of how different environmental factors can play a major role in your overall health, not just diet, exercise, and developing good habits. If you really want to make lasting changes in how you feel, think, and act, then I suggest you try to listen closely and also to have an open mind to what I have to say. Every day I put out a video that's between 7 and 15 minutes long or so, and I keep the podcast short like this so I can be both informative and to the point so you're not so overwhelmed. I also don't do any kind of show advertisements right now, so instead I ask that you share this podcast with a friend or family member if you enjoyed the message and really gain something from it. I want to be able to spread quality and easy to understand content that everyone can take and use in their own daily lives. I would highly appreciate it. Now, getting on to today's episode, talking about getting that morning sunshine in your eyes. So doing this, getting that morning sunlight, looking in the direction of it, not looking directly at the sun, but having it in your field of view, every morning is one of the most important decisions you should be making in your life. It seriously is the most powerful mechanism for controlling your circadian rhythm. Plus, it creates essential hormones within the eye. So we'll start by touching on the circadian rhythm side of things. Normally around 4 to 6 a.m., kind of depends on when when you typically wake up, what your normal routine is and other things. But between 4 and 6 a.m. is when your body's cortisol and adrenaline levels will spike. Okay, so this just wakes the body up and literally turns on the sympathetic nervous system so that it's ready for daily activity. Then, if you were a human who lived in nature or lived what I'd call wildly, you'd go outside naked and look in the direction of the sun while grounding. First thing in the morning, every single freaking morning. UV light from the sun destroys cortisol levels and sex hormones, bringing both down to relatively low levels. I know the sex hormones thing to me seemed a little jarring at first, a little weird, not something you'd expect. But my guess is, part of that has to do with the sympathetic nervous system again. The sun is calming you down, which, sunlight is the fastest way to get rid of stress. And again, it's kind of toning down the buzz of the sympathetic nervous system. And by doing this, it also works as a very strong trigger for the circadian rhythm. Those hormones must go down now so that they can rise when needed and are, and at the proper times later when they should be up. In other words, missing out on this morning light is a really good way to give yourself a case of adrenal fatigue long term. This strong light in the morning also stimulates the suprachiasmatic nucleus, or just abbreviated as SCN, if you want to look it up easier later on. Anyway, it stimulates this part that is within the hypothalamus, the part of the brain that directly, and this is the part of the brain that directly adjusts the circadian rhythm. It's in full control, that SCN. By the way, right here, this is clear evidence that demonstrates circadian rhythm issues are not purely a hormonal or biochemical problem, but a quantum one that requires quantum solutions, which is, basically just looking at the sun or direction of the sun. Now, the other major reason to get morning sunlight has to do with the specific viscosity or thickness of the fluid in the eye. Think of, water compared to honey. Honey is extremely viscous, very, very thick, or molasses. Now, very, very few people know that the fluid in the eye is actually designed, it has a very specific viscosity so that it can slow light down at a specific speed. before going any further here, think of Einstein's equation of E equals mc squared. Okay, so this means energy equals mass times the speed of light. If we solve for mass in this equation, we get mass equals energy divided by c squared, or mass equals energy divided by the speed of light, which, if we rephrase it in very simple terms, this means that as light slows down, some of the energy must be turning into mass. Well, another fact almost nobody knows, including even your eye doctor, honestly, many eye doctors just don't get this, is that the lens of the eye allows a tiny amount of UV light through. Now, can you kind of guess where I'm going with this yet? So, as UV light enters the eye and slows down once it hits that liquid, the very viscous liquid in the eye, then the cells actually begin capturing that light and turning it into mass. Again, as it's slowing it down, it's turning it into mass. Structured water in the eye is what does the job. That is what's actually capturing the UV light, or one of the two things. But this is the main source of, this is the main net, if you will. As a matter of fact, structured water, or also called the exclusion zone, or abbreviated as EZ, just in case you come across it somewhere else, this water is most sensitive to UV light out of any light. It's literally designed to capture and conduct UV light. I mean, all light, but especially UV light. And as it does this, it's able to generate trillions of electrons. But again, this is not the only effect that happens as the UV is slowing down. The UV light is also trapped by amino acids in the eye. And this is actually part of the mechanism that allows the eye to create melanopsin, as well as all the other opsins, like neuropsin, in the eye. Melanopsin is huge in regulating the circadian rhythm, so you should not be missing out on it. You need to get that morning sunlight. And by the way, this is the only way the body can create any opsin. The only way is to get UV through your eyes, which means you cannot be wearing contacts, and you can't be wearing your glasses out in the sun. You have to get sunlight in your eyes. Anyways, that's all I have for you guys, so I hope you enjoyed the podcast. If you have any questions or comments, reach out to me on Instagram at RealQuantumFit, my personal Facebook page, just Taylor Kelson, or through a voice message on Anchor if you listen to me on that app. Talk to you guys tomorrow.